What is going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Living Freed channel. My name is Tyler Freed, and in this video, I'm going to be explaining the steps of getting into trucking. I'm also going to be talking about the only way I believe you'll have any real success with trucking financially. That means you'll get into it and you'll either make it a lifelong career or you'll get out of it further ahead than you were financially when you first started. So if you're new to the channel and you're somebody that's looking at getting into the trucking industry, this is the perfect video for you. If you're somebody that's new to trucking but you don't really have a plan, a path, this is also the video for you. Or if you're even experienced, but also you don't have a plan or a path, you're just doing this, you're just waking up day to day, doing your job, going through the motions, you really don't know where you want to go with this career. Really, for everybody in this industry, this is the perfect video for you. So I really appreciate each and every one of you for clicking on the video. Whether you're new or you're not new, please like the video. Stay tuned till the very end of the video so you can hear my entire point. It's going to be very important, especially if you're somebody that is looking at making this a long-term career. A lot of people look at trucking as a potential long-term career. A lot of people do. And a lot of people are very hesitant on making that decision, and for good reason, because there's a lot of mixed opinions on whether you should get a CDL, get into trucking, whether it's a good industry to work in, whether it's not. Probably about 80 to 90% of the content, whether it's videos on YouTube, magazines, blogs, articles, whatever, written about trucking or spoken about trucking, are negative. So a lot of people are turned off from getting into this career and becoming a truck driver. Well, I'm going to give you a different perspective. And like I said, if you're new and you don't know anything about me, I tend to give a different perspective on trucking. But I'm going to first start off with, the most important thing, right? Should you go into trucking? Is that your only option? What other options do you have? I don't know you personally, but I do know a lot of people do not have college degrees. A lot of people do not have certifications in other trades. If you are somebody like that doesn't have a career, or you don't have certifications, or you don't have a degree, it's going to be very hard for you to make an above average income, because you just don't qualify for the jobs that pay, $50,000 and above, right? And in trucking, you can get into trucking and get your CDL and get through training, and in your first year you can make 50 to 60 grand a year. And I know to some of you, you're going to say, well, that's no money. Well, the goal is to not stay at 50, 60 grand a year. The goal is just to get in and get started and get experience. After you get a year or two of experience, you can make a lot more money than that in trucking. There's steps, just like any other career. But to those of you that are on the fence, will ask yourself this question: am I better off staying at home, working that warehouse job? Am I better off working that construction job? Am I better off working this job or that job? No, chances are, no, you are not. You have a much higher income potential going and getting your CDL and getting into trucking, right? You do, 100%. You can make $100,000 plus a year as a company driver without even owning a truck. If you go into the business and save up money and buy your own truck and want to grow a fleet, there's that option too. You can go the business route and make even more. The sky is the limit in trucking. Now, don't get me wrong. You're not going to come in and first year you're making 6 figures a year. Most people don't do that. Most people start off at a big company. They get their CDL, they get their training, they make 50, 60 grand a year the first year. And then, after that, once they get their experience, that's where they're qualified to start working for better companies with higher pay and a little bit harder to get into. And then that's where you can make the 80 to 120,000 a year as a company driver. It just depends on where you go, what your endorsements are, all that. I'm going to get into all that. I'm going to get into the steps. So, but should you do it, you just have to look at your situation and say, hey, am I better off doing what I'm doing? Is there more opportunity with what I'm doing right now? Or would I be better off going into the trucking industry? To be clear, the trucking industry is almost $1 trillion industry. There's plenty of money to be made. Now, a lot of people will tell you that, the regulations are too ridiculous. A lot of people will tell you the brokers suck. A lot of people will tell you most companies are going to scam you and this and that, and there's all these problems. Well, newsflash, most industries, all industries have corruption, all industries have problems, and that's really irrelevant to you, especially somebody who is just starting from nothing and looking at getting a really good job. We're not talking about owning a business, dealing with brokers, dealing with shipper. No, you're looking to get a better job. That's what you got to focus on. You got to focus on the first thing. You got to focus on, man, if I can go from making 35, 40,000 a year to 60 in my first year, and then above that, or after I get my year of experience, I can, double or sometimes triple your income. Why would you not go do that? Why would you not want to go and pursue that opportunity, right? And too many people talk themselves out of it because they're listening to people who don't have a plan for their trucking career. They're listening to people who they're just going through the motions, like I alluded to. So I'm going to go through the steps now, but that's just what you have to figure out. Should you get a CDL, you have to figure out, is there more opportunity doing that versus what I'm doing now, right? You just have to figure that out. What are my options? And if I have no better option, why are you not doing that? Is a great question, right? It's a great job for people that have no other options, for sure. And so there's that. So what are the steps? You have two ways as to how you can go about getting your CDL. You can go to like a private school, like a lot of community colleges offer CDL courses. You can go to that community college, test out, get your license, and then get hired on with the company. You can do that, but you're gonna have to pay out of pocket for that. And most people who start out in the industry don't do that, but if you have the money and that's what you want to do, it's not a bad option. Go do it. And then you have the option of, if you don't have any money, most mega carriers, we all know who they are: Swift, Knight, Warner, who else? Prime. There's a ton of different companies that offer CDL training. They have a school attached to the company. They train you, they get your license, and you go drive for that company for about a year, right? And they make you drive for the company for a year to pay off the school, right? Because that's the contract. They put you through school, they got you through the training, and they paid for it, and you're pretty much just required to stay with them for a year. But after you hit a year with them, at most companies, you're able to leave and go somewhere else once you get that year under your belt and go pursue other opportunities, right? So whichever route you decide to go, I would say either way though, either route, whether you go private, whether you go to a company to get your license, I would recommend you get all of your endorsements, every single one of them. Just do it, because it's all just a written test. So whenever you go get your CDL permit, do all your endorsements so that you have a lot more options as to what type of jobs you can get, right? That is something I didn't even do. I didn't get my endorsements because the company I started with was General Dry Van Freight, and I didn't do that. And I'm cool where I'm at, but I do wish I had that on my license so that I would have those other opportunities and not have to go back and take the test if I ever want to get my endorsements. So I recommend, like I said, either route you go, get your endorsements. Definitely do that. The more options you have, the more marketable you are, and the better pay you can demand too as well. So there's that. Then you have to decide, okay, at most of the time, you're going to have to get a year of experience, either OTR or regional, but you're going to be doing interstate trucking most of the time. Now, some people start out local right away, that is an option. You can do that, but it's very rare. Most people do start out where they're doing at least regional. Maybe they're not going all 48 states, but they're regional. They're doing the Southeast, or they do nothing but east of I-35 or west of I-35, right? You just have to decide what's best for you. But most of these companies offer, whoever you start with, because they're big enough and they have different divisions, most of these companies offer, jobs for everybody. That they offer the all 48 out 3-4 weeks at a time. Then you have the jobs that are, just regional. They get you through the house every other week. And then they have jobs that are dedicated. They'll get you through the house every weekend. You just have to decide what's best for you. To be honest with you, it all just depends. And a lot of that, there's a trade-off, right? If you're over the road, they're going to pay their over the road guys more than their local guys or their dedicated guys, because there's a higher demand for that position, right? So you just have to decide what's best for you. But like I said, you start out with a company or you go to private school, then you got to get hired on to a starter company and probably do about a year, like I said, with them. And once you get that year under your belt, you can decide to go where you want to go. And really what you should be doing while you're driving your first year, that's where you want to get your experience. You want to get really good at what you're doing, get your experience, become the safest driver at your company, be the driver that gets hits all their mileage bonuses, all their fuel, you're fuel compliant, you're 100% fuel compliant, you have no tickets, no accidents. And then during that time, be thinking about what you want to do long term, right? Do you want to buy a truck, be an owner operator? Do you want to go do LTL freight? Do you want to do oversized load? Do you want to stay in general freight? What do you want to do, right? That's where you should be figuring that out, so that after you hit that first year of experience, you're able to go into what you're going to do long term. That's the most important thing, because the money in trucking is not staying at the same spot. The money in trucking is finding a niche, right? Once you get good experience, you have a year or two under your belt, you can go and make a lot more per mile at these more experienced companies. These companies don't have schools. They're looking for experienced drivers, and a lot of times they pay a lot more money than where you started, right? Or you go and do, like I said, something more specialized that not everybody else is doing. They also pay a lot more money for that because it's simply just a higher demand. Look, jobs are all about supply and demand. A business is all about supply and demand. That's economics. Try to specialize, try to differentiate yourself from everybody else, and you will make more money. That's why I always say you can make 6 figures a year. There's guys pulling, doubles and triples at Old Dominion and FedEx and UP, and they're making 6 figures a year, and they're home every other week, right? There's people at Crete. I work at, I'm an owner op leased on to Crete, but there's company drivers at Crete making $100,000 a year. They have the potential to make that every single year, because they've got the experience and they're getting a high enough rate per mile. There is jobs out there that are like that, but you got to pay your dues, right? You're not going to, like I said, that first year, don't expect to make more than 70 grand. Don't expect that. This is your learning curve, right? You got to get through the growing pains, but once you get your experience and you know what you're doing and you figure out what you want to do long term, that's where the money is. That's where you're going to make a lot of money, right? And so, but you got to figure all that out. You got to figure out how you're going to start. You got to get your experience, get really good at the job, and then figure out what you're going to do long term, right? Whether it's stay company, just use your money from trucking to build a nice retirement, whether you want to buy a truck and invest in other things with that one truck. Do you want to grow a fleet? What do you want to do? You got to have a clear-cut plan for your personal situation. And when you do that, you will start to be more motivated to do the job. You're not just going through the motions like I talked about earlier. You don't want to just go through the motions. You want to have a plan, a roadmap. If I'm going from Dallas, Texas to Las Vegas, Nevada, man, I need a GPS. I need a map. I need to know the roads I got to take to get there. And that's life as well, right? That's life as well. You got to have that. And it's important when you plan out any career. And so many people in trucking don't do that. And it is vital for your success long term in this field, in any field, but specifically in trucking. So after you figure all that out, and I like to end with this, right? And this is the best part, because this will apply to you no matter whether or not you are company, you're local, you're regional, you're over the road, you're flatbed, dry van, reefer, oversight, doesn't matter what you're doing in trucking to make your money. This is going to apply to everybody. What I always recommend is once you get your experience, once you get into trucking, you're making decent money, now it's time to start using the money from trucking to get ahead financially, to set yourself up for retirement and create real opportunity for yourself. So once you're rolling, you're on your own, you're making consistent money, you're doing well, you know what you want to do with trucking, now it's time to have a financial plan. Okay, and most people start out either in debt or they start out with no debt, but they have no savings at all. So let's assume you're starting out in a hole. What do I always say on this channel? The first thing you want to do when you start making good money is throw as much of that paycheck as possible into paying off all your debt, right? You want to pay off all of your consumer debt so that you free up the cash flow from your income and use that later on, once you're out of debt, to start saving and investing and building a nice retirement for yourself and creating real wealth, real financial freedom. So step one, pay off all of your debt, get out of debt. Step two, then build up a 6-month emergency fund. Add up all of your living expenses for 1 month, multiply that by 6. That's how much money you need in a savings account. And you need to have that in place before you think about doing anything as far as investing. I don't care if it's buying a truck. I don't care if it's investing in the stock market. Get yourself a 6-month emergency fund saved up. Once you have that above that, now it's time to start putting your money towards what you want to invest in. What I did is I saved 50 to 60% of every paycheck I made when I was a company driver. I did that for about 5.5 to 6 years, and I was able to save up enough money to start a fleet. And, you know, I bought one truck, I ran that for a year, but I had money to buy multiple trucks after about 4 or 5 years of saving. I had enough money to do that. And I wouldn't have had that had I not been disciplined with my paychecks and put that much money away. And what I did to save was invested that money. I invested it into a low-cost, broad-based index fund. I pretty much bought the global stock market at market cap weights. If you want to know the ticker symbol I was buying, I bought VTWAX. It's the Vanguard Total World Stock Market Index, and I bought that the last 6 years. I invested in that, and then once I reached the point where I felt comfortable putting my money into my own business and taking that risk, I did that. And I just now recently did that. But that's how I got to that point, by doing that. Some of you are like, look, I don't want to really own a business. I'm not interested in owning a trucking business, owning a fleet. Well, that's usually about 90% of the people in the industry. But if you're going to own a business, I always talk about this, but if you're going to buy a truck, do it with cash, save up, pay cash, and have a $20,000 to $30,000 emergency fund before you even consider that. If you don't have that, you're better off working your higher paid company job and just using your money to invest in other things. So let's assume, you know, I took care of everybody. That's what I recommend if you're going to be an owner operator, to do that. Well, let's assume 90% of you really have no interest in owning a truck. You don't want to grow a fleet. Well, you still need to use your money to make money. You still need to build and grow your money, grow your wealth. Well, after you're out of debt and have that emergency fund, now you have your income to be able to start saving and investing. And I think for most people personally, and I've done a ton of videos about index investing, you can go back and look at those, but I have done a lot of that. And if you could save 25 to 50% of your income for 10 years as a company driver, making $100,000 a year, man, you could be a millionaire in 10, 15 years. You'll be a millionaire, if not a multimillionaire, depending on how aggressively you save and invest. But that's what, I would recommend for 90% of you. Some of you want to buy real estate. You want to save up. You want to buy rental properties. You want to save up, buy your first home, live in that for a couple years, and then rent it out, and then buy another one, and just build up a real estate portfolio. Just figure out, again, what you want to do. But the goal is to have a really good paying job that you can pay off all your debt, build up a savings account, and start investing your money and building real financial freedom. See, trucking is one of the best jobs out there for creating financial freedom for most people. It's an amazing job for that. But you have to have the right plan, the right mindset, and the right work ethic to accomplish that. But I do believe that most people watching this video, if they do create a plan, stick to it, follow it, do the work, they can be successful financially after a 20, 30-year career in trucking. 100% they can create financial freedom. It is possible. Don't listen to these people that are telling you it can't be done. I'm proof that it can be done. I'm proof. I started out with no savings at all, and now I own 5 paid off semi trucks, and I'm running a fleet, and I'm way further ahead than I thought I would be after 6 years of driving. I am. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything like that. No, there's always somebody that's way further ahead than me or way further ahead than you. The point is that if I can do it, I'm not that smart. I'm not any more special than you. If I can do it, I know that the majority of you, especially the ones that watch my channel, you can have a level of success. You can. You may not go the exact route I took, but you definitely can have financial success in this industry. Like I said, I'm an example of that. There's plenty of other examples of that on YouTube and maybe people you know personally, but you got to pay your dues. You got to have a plan. You got to have a work ethic to accomplish the plan you set out, but you can have great success. So that's the end of this video. Should you get a CDL? Is it worth it? I don't know. Listen to what I said, maybe watch this video a few times and think about your situation, what you want to do, what you could accomplish with this job, and you have to decide for yourself ultimately. But that's my video for today. God bless. Thank you for watching. Make sure you stay tuned for more videos like this in the future. Peace out.